So hi everyone. So I write articles sometimes, and there's one I wrote a while ago on this topic. So I'm going to read it out and give uh, a few of my thoughts on it, and some other things I've learned since then. So it starts with a question: Is Jesus God? Is Jesus the Messiah? This is an old question that has been asked by many generations of human beings, dating as far back as 2000 years ago. What was the purpose of Jesus? Is he coming back like the scripture states? And how soon is soon, given that we haven't encountered him for 2000 years? So the Bible clearly states that Jesus said that no one can get to God the Father except through him. History, however, shows that Jesus was not widely known among the African communities until the time when the missionaries came in the early 1800s. So, what happened to my great great grandfather who lived without having encountered the message of Jesus? Does he go to hell? What happens to our Muslim brothers and sisters who are born in areas where Christianity is not permitted at all, and they live their entire lives without knowing the existence of Jesus? And how comes Jesus wasn't black? How comes Jesus didn't write any scripture himself, and we have to rely on the words of those who saw him? Doesn't all of this seem suspect in a way? If Jesus was truly the Son of God, would he not have been able to reveal himself to the entire world when he came 2000 years ago, instead of revealing himself to a small group of Jewish people who would have to spread the message of his existence in a painfully slow way to the rest of the world? Could Jesus show himself to the entire world? Couldn't Jesus show himself to the entire world like the sun does every morning and be visible to everyone like the sun is visible to everybody? I know he was supposed to be humble enough, and maybe that's why he couldn't descend on us like the sun does. But was it worth it that some people should be born and die without ever knowing him just because he wanted to live a humble life? And yet, he's the key to heaven. So many questions have been asked about Jesus and his legitimacy, leading to a lot of arguments and numerous religions and denominations. So the three main religions, that's Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all historically point to the existence of Jesus, but disagree on his importance. The Muslims believe he was just another prophet, the Jews believe he was just another Jew, while the Christians believe he was the Son of God in human form. Or there's a huge debate about the intentions of spreading Christianity to the entire world. Other than the sheer goodness of the heart and wanting everybody to go to heaven, there has been some political reasoning that suggests some not so benevolent intentions. First of all, Christianity teaches obedience and following the law. To be more specific, Jesus taught that when you are hit on the right cheek, you should willingly give the left cheek to be hit too. This is a particularly important quality that any government would want to have in its citizens so that they don't rebel when the government messes up. So, was it a coincidence that after the European government sent explorers to Africa and they discovered how savage Africans were, that they would send missionaries who would soften their hearts by converting them to Christianity so that when the colonizers came back later on, they would have an easy time ruling the land? It seems like a plot to me rather than a coincidence. So yeah, I remember writing this, and I also remember doing a paper. I was studying African studies at that time, and I took a course on. I don't remember the name of the course, but it was just based on the colonization and the state of Africa at the moment. So the topic of Jesus did come up, and it it was a major question that I tackled with a lot of I, I I really tackled that topic during that paper. I mentioned because I thought it was important. It was something I noticed while just thinking about how Christianity came to be in this current world, especially with respect to the African sense. So, as we already know, like most of Africa has been converted into Christianity since the missionaries came in the 1800s. And yeah, I questioned it, and I the professor I really liked my argument, and I thought I should write a small article on it here, which I just read. So yeah, it's very controversial. The main thing which I have looked at recently was whether Jesus really existed as a historical figure that just existed 2,000 years ago. The Bible really mentions that he was there, he was a real human being or God that existed at that time and did a lot of miracles. But articles from non Christians or people who don't subscribe to the religion seem to question this, saying that there are no historical accounts of the things that were mentioned in the Bible. One that was specifically stated was that when Jesus died, then the saints came out of graves and were seen walking around, and the sky turned black and there was darkness. And some historical information seems to show that that might not have happened because apart from the Bible and the followers of Christianity, it doesn't seem like there was such a historical event that happened. Apart from it, other things were like the miracles he performed, and yeah, there has been great debate about that and generally about the Bible. Um, Personally, as I grew up Christian, I learned to ignore the Old Testament and just focus on the New Testament because the God of the Old Testament is not very consistent with the one of the New Testament. The Old Testament God is an angry God who punishes people, orders people to kill other people for power, has a chosen race or a group of people that belong to him, and the rest of them are just rejects, and they have to come to him through the group of Israel, which is a very small group. It just seems like a Jewish God really does not really care about Africans and all that. But the New Testament, with that the message that was spread by Jesus seems to include everyone else and not just the Israelites. And so I learned to ignore the Old Testament. But some I was watching a video and someone commented like God is unchanging. Like the God who created this world should be the same God that existed before Jesus and after Jesus. So is the Old Testament wrong, or should it not be in the Bible completely because it's not a depiction of God? Maybe can we say the whole everyone in the Old Testament was wrong in their belief of God and what God was and what God could be and the importance of God in the society. Uh, could could we say that? Because the comment that God doesn't change really hit me, and I'm like, therefore the God in the New Testament must be the same God in the Old Testament, and they seem to contradict. They seem two very different images of God. The God in the New Testament seems very soft, very humble, very accommodating of people from all over the world, someone who is not racist in any sense or tribal in any sense, someone who wants the best for us, someone who loves the whole world as it is, as he created it. But yeah, so that was a major question, and there's so many things that have been asked. Another thing that I encountered in one of the videos I was watching was the story of Noah and the ark. that Noah was supposed to build an ark that was supposed to fill all the animals in this world and all the people in this world if they agreed to join wherever he was sent by God to do. And it doesn't seem feasible for Noah to have been able to build such a big ark unless God already knew that people would refuse to listen to Noah and all that. So, yeah, another debate was the omnipresence of God, which means God is everywhere and at all the time. Like, there's no place where God isn't. So, another question that came up with that is that some Christian teachings say that when you do some things, you're far away from God, and when you do some other things, you're closer to God. And so that didn't make sense. God is everywhere. There's no way you can be farther away from God or closer to the God by doing anything. You'll always be the same distance from God, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. Then some other concern was God seems to this God seems very patriarchal. That means he seems to favor men more than women. I remember even in the New Testament when they were counting the people who Jesus fed, it was 5,000 men, 4,000 men. The women and the children are not counted. So it raises a question whether really even the story of creation, Eve was created from the ribs of Adam, which makes the woman just subject to the man. I don't have the female experience. I don't know how they view that, but that's also one of the things that was mentioned. There was also things about the writings of the Gospels. Apparently, according to history, most of them were written after Jesus died. So around 100, 200, 300 AD, the Bible was compiled by people who lived when long after Jesus died and supposedly went to heaven. So they didn't have a direct experience with Jesus. So there are no direct writings that were written by people who actually saw Jesus. Everything that was written in the New Testament was written after Jesus died. And all the books that were supposed to be written by the disciples themselves, that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Uh, as we all know, Jesus was picking up these disciples from just random men on the street and fishermen and tax collectors and all that. And historically, these were not people who were learned. Like reading and writing has become something universal nowadays, but it was not. People were not exposed to the education system at that time, so the likelihood that the fishermen were able to read and write at that time is the possibility of that is very low. Which means these books were probably not written by the disciples themselves, but by people and given the titles of the disciples. So yeah, there's a lot that has been discussed. The Gospel of Daniel and not the Gospel, like the Book of Daniel, and how they survived the fire. Uh, then all the miracles performed by the prophets. So some people seem to lean to the idea that, which is documented in history books, that around 300 AD, that people at that time believed that Jesus was a cult leader, that Christianity was a new cult that was gaining prominence in, I think, the Roman kingdom at that time. So, yeah, so according to some people, Christianity started as a cult, but leaders like emperors and the kings of that time, when they compile the Bible, they realize it could be a good way to make the citizens people who respect the locals. Jesus said, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's," and yeah, respect the leaders because they are chosen people from God. So those are very useful things to the leaders of that time so that they could keep the nation under control and prevent rebellions and all that kind of stuff. So it explains why most of the kings and the emperors uh, joined Christianity and promoted it to their citizens and all that. So yeah, that's just a bit of it. There's a lot that I went through, but for now, that's what I was able to gather. Thank you.